exercise 6 point. So we're looking at graphs for sec x, cosec x, and cot x. Remember, sec is the reciprocal or inverse of the cos graph. Cosec is the reciprocal of the sine graph, and cot is the reciprocal of the tan graph. We'll start with cosec x. So y equals cosec x. I'm just going to do a quick table of values, and then we will draw the graph. For the graph for y equals cosec x, which is the inverse reciprocal graph of sine x, we know that the sine curve, I'm just going to draw it over the side, looks like this. This is y equals sine x, or sine theta. If I call this x and this y, that would be y equals sine x. So you should really be very familiar with the shape of the sine curve. So whenever you are working out values for sine 0, 90, 180, 270 or 360, you would just draw this quick sketch. 0, I just put 0, 180, 360 there. And the amplitude is 1. So these are for 90 and 270. So amplitude 1, so we've got 1 and negative 1. This is 0 here. So sine of 0 is 0. Sine of 90 is 1, sine of 180 is 0, sine of 270 is negative 1, and sine of 360 is 0. Now cosec is 1 divided by, remember that cosec is 1 divided by sine x. So what's 1 divided by 0?
0.
No, it's not. It's undefined. So it's undefined because it's 1 divided by 0. I'll just put the sort of working out down here. It's undefined. So remember, cosec x is 1 over sine. So it's 1 over, so therefore cosec of 0 is undefined. 1 divided by 1. Do you know what I'm doing? I'm doing 1 divided by the value up here. What's 1 divided by 1? 1. So what I've, let's keep going. Again, for cosec 180, it's 1 divided by 0, which is undefined. For 270, 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. And when cosec of 360 is 1 divided by 0, which is undefined. So if that is the graph of y equals sine x, the graph of y equals cosec x looks like the following. 0, we've got 90, 180, 270, 360. Sorry, I should have sort of made it the same size as the other one, but it just didn't happen. So we've got cosec, so this will be the graph of y equals cosec x. We've got cosec of 0 is undefined. Let's just not draw it in at the moment. Cosec of 90 is 1. Now, what actually happens, I'm going to draw it up here too. Okay, I'm going to draw it off this one. Cosec of 180 is undefined as well. You know when you've got undefined, you draw asymptotes? So we've actually got an asymptote at 0 and 180. And often, you know, when you've got asymptotes, you've either got very large values or very small values for your function. If you actually go to your calculator now, could you do something like cosec of 10 degrees, for example? How would you do cosec of 10 degrees on your calculator? You can't do it. You go 1 divided by sine of 10. Cosec of 10 degrees, do 1 divided by sine of 10. Just trying values. Let's just try cosec of 10 or 5. Has anyone done cosec 10? 1 divided by sine 10. So cosec 10 is 1 divided by sine 10, for example, which is? Anyone got an answer? All right, try cosec of 2 or something. We're getting close to 0. That was 5.7. Cosec of 2. To enter cosec 2 on your calculator, you go 1 divided by sine 2. All right. Where do you think? Etc. 28. So what's the curve going to look like? Way up here. All right. Would you like to now try cosec of about 175? Do you know what I'm doing? I'm trying to see where my curve goes now. Cosec of 175. Yeah, 11. So it's large, right? 1 over sine of 175, which is 11. So in other words, the curve looks like this. Okay, so cosec of small values are quite large. Cosec 90 is 1. Cosec of something close to 180 is quite large. You know what it really does? Do cosec now of 185 or something. Cosec of 185. How do you do that? It's 1 divided by sine of 185. You should get a negative value because the sine of 185 is negative because it's quadrant 3. Do you get negative 11? All right, so we're down here now. Oh, what do you get for cosec 270 is negative 1. And we know that at 360 we've got an asymptote. Girls, it looks like this. So it looks like that. Sorry, they should actually be the same shape. You know, not one, they're meant to be the same width. I'm going to actually draw it on the very top graph, and it looks like this. It bounces off. So if I've got sine x there, obviously where sine x equals 0, you've got asymptotes for cosec x. Does that make sense? Sorry, my graph is really bad for sine x. Okay, or I can actually draw it down here now. Why don't I draw it on the one graph down here? All right, so now I'm going to draw the two together. Here we go. So if this is sine x, 360, 180, 90, and 270, wherever sine x is now 0 because cosec is 1 over, wherever you've got 0 on sine x, you've got asymptotes on cosec x, 1, negative 1. Sorry, I probably shouldn't draw it so big. So what it does, 1 divided by 1 is 1. It actually flips off. So the cosec curve flips off the sine curve. Can you see? Looks like this. Okay, so y equals cosec x flips off the sine curve. So here's your sine curve in black. Cosec. Cosec of something small is quite large. Here, because cosec is 1 divided by whatever the sine is. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 1 divided by 0 is undefined. 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. 1 divided by 0 again is undefined there, hence the asymptote. Okay? So y equals cosec x has asymptotes at, where are the asymptotes? At x is 0, 180, 360, and so on. Okay? It has asymptotes wherever sine x equals 0. Because it's 1 divided by 0. It's wherever y equals sine x equals 0. And it bounces off. It bounces off the sine curve. Does it make sense? Because it bounces off. And the sec curve bounces off the cos curve as well. Okay? So it should be quicker to do the others. Graph for y equals sec x. So when x is 0, again, 90, 180, 270, and 360. We're going to look at cos of x, and then we're going to look at sec of x. Okay, cos curve is like this. 1, negative 1, 0. This is 180 degrees, that's 360. So the cos of 0 is 1. The cos of 90 is 0. The cos of 180 is negative 1. The cos of 270 is 0. And the cos of 360 is 1. That's my quick little y equals cos x sketch. So my sec x, I'm just going to draw the one graph this time. So here is, I'll do it a bit smaller this time. That's my y equals cos x curve in purple. Okay, now let's look at our sec values. 1 divided by 1 is, it's 1, isn't it? 1 divided by 1. 1 divided by 0 is undefined. 1 divided by negative 1. Remember, sec is 1 over cos x. Okay. 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. I'll just show the working there. 1 divided by 0 is undefined, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. So the trick is, wherever y equals cos x has the 0 values, because you're doing 1 divided by 0, that's where you put your asymptotes for cosec, for sec. Okay, that's how you know where, because you're going 1 divided by 0. That's undefined. There's your asymptote. Now, the other thing is you can look at quadrants as well. So we know we're going to have 1 divided by 1 is 1. We know that, see, if you look here, it's 1 divided by a small positive value, because I'm doing 1 divided by whatever this is. This is like 1 divided by 0.1 down here. It's like 10. So this one's up here. It bounces off. Here, I've got a negative value. So 1 divided by this small negative value gives you a large negative value. So this bounces off here as well, because when x is 180, it's 1 divided by -1 is also -1. So I'm drawing the sec graph in pink. And here again, we're bouncing off the original, off the cos curve. Because here I'm back in quadrant 4, it's 1 divided by this value. Because it's 1 divided by cos. That's like 1 divided by 0.1 is 10. Can you see? 1 divided by 1 is 1. So the sec graph is in pink. Okay? Again, follows. This one has asymptotes at where? At x is 90 and 270. And it bounces off the curve y equals cos x. So the sec curve bounces off the cos curve. And that's how you learn how to draw it. You do a quick sketch of cos, and then you bounce it off. Okay? And you put your asymptotes where the cos curve is 0. Okay? And of course, this would repeat over here. And notice we've got asymptotes every 180 degrees. If I were to continue this, the next asymptote would be at 450 and so on, another 90 degrees after the 360, but 180 from there. Okay? And then the next one here would go like that, if I were to continue it. And this would even continue back into negative angles, but we'll look more at negative angles next year. Y equals cot x is the inverse reciprocal of the tan curve, third letter t. So let's just do a quick sketch of the tan curve. Tan of 0 is 0. Tan of 90 is undefined. Remember, tan is positive in quadrant 1, so it's up there. That's 90, 180, 270, and 360. So, and then tan of 180 is 0 as well, and so is tan of 360. We've got asymptotes every 180 degrees. This curve, the tan curve, looks like this. That's your tan curve, y equals tan x. Okay, so tan of 0 is 0. Tan of 90 is undefined. Tan of 180 is also 0. Tan of 270 is undefined. And tan of 360 is 0. So if 1 divided by 0 is undefined, 1 divided by undefined is 0. If 1 divided by 0 is undefined, just watching, if 1 divided by 0 equals undefined, pretend you're balancing an equation, swap. 1 divided by undefined is 0. Okay? So, all right, the only thing with these is you can't do them on the calculator because you can't do 1 divided by something undefined on your calc. So, we've got 1 divided by 0 here is undefined, but 1 divided by undefined is 0. 1 divided by 0, undefined. 1 divided by undefined is 0. And this one's undefined. So to sketch that, So let's put the two, I'll just draw that other one separately. I'll see. I'll see if I put them both on the one graph. So wherever the tan curve is 0, that's where you've now got asymptotes for the cot curve. So your asymptotes for the cot curve are not at 90 and 270. They're at wherever the tan curve is 0. So we've got asymptotes at 0, 180 this time, and 360. Now, remember that cot is 1 over tan. Now, what you can do is just take the original graph. 1 divided by, let's say, something quite small. 1 divided by, say, 0.1. Isn't that big? 1 divided by a tenth is 10. This is up here, up there. 1 divided by undefined is 0, so it looks like this. It's going the other way. 1 divided by something quite big. Sorry. Oh, I'm over here now. 1 divided by a big negative number. It's like 1 divided by negative 20. That's a small negative no, it's not. Here, we just keep coming down. What's, again, 1 divided by 0? Undefined. But say here at about 170, 1 divided by, say, 0.1. Isn't that a big, like something like 10? 1 divided by negative 0.1 would be something like negative 10. All right, so if you did 1 divided by tan of 170, you'd get something like negative 10 or negative something like that. Because see, I'm here just before 180, 1 divided by this small negative number. If you do 1 divided by a small number, you get a large number. It's like how many 0.2s go into, or 0.1s go into 1? 10 of them. All right, so a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and you'll get a large number there. And here, 1 divided by a small positive number will give you a large positive number. At 270, it'll be 1 divided by undefined is 0. So this is your curve. In other words, it goes the other way. Okay, it goes the other way. So this is y equals cot of x. It also has a period of 180 degrees, and it has asymptotes, and it doesn't bounce. It has asymptotes at 0, 180, 360, and so on. Okay, so it goes the other way. And how do you remember those? 1 divided by undefined is 0. 1 divided by 0 is undefined. Okay, and if you're not sure which way it goes, 1 divided by a small positive value is a large positive value, and you know now it goes that way. Okay, okay.